Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's The World This Week. We're in the World This Week in partnership with The Daily Beast. We're in the company of Christopher Dickey, its foreign editor. Welcome back as well to Dov Alfon, editor-at-large for Israeli daily newspaper Haaretz. Elena Servataz of the Russian language service of sister station Radio France International, and independent reporter Aisha Gul-Sert. We were talking just before the break about Russia having that clear response, which the U.S. doesn't have when it comes to Syria. What's the feel in Moscow about what's going on, about the ground offensive, about all of this?
But, in fact, the official point of view we just heard from Maria Zakharova, from Minister of Foreign Affairs, but it's very easy to deal with Vladimir Putin. When you discuss Syria, you should not discuss Syria. You should discuss Ukrainian sanctions. As soon as you got this, you will have everything done. That's what no president.
So it's not so much about, because everybody's been saying that.
It's not about Syria.
It's not about Syria. It's about Ukraine.
It's about Ukrainian sanctions. You just lift off the sanctions, and it will be done.
Well, yes, but Russia, I beg to differ in the senses, is a part of the problem, and it's no longer a part of the solution. And it's. The thing is that as the media, how many more images we have to show of children being taken out of the rubbles? How many more images do we have to show of basically, you mentioned at the beginning, almost 300,000 people who are trapped, no electricity, no water. So we have to go, it's no more, I don't believe anymore in the fact that we can have a diplomatic conversation with Russia.
And I don't believe that images can change anything. I mean, you can show as much images. We had so many examples during the Holocaust.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
6
exactly
million
that.
people. Nothing has changed.
We didn't have so many images of that.
Yeah.
That was until after.
Dov Alfon, a final word on this. Is Russia right now has the upper hand, or with Assad?
It certainly looks so, yes. But
will they be bogged down as well?
You know, winter is coming. And winter is coming. It's not only this kind of warning, it's a physical thing. And it happens here in Europe when there are millions of refugees without any housing, and of course there. So I think it's not only images, it's a real situation. But the Holocaust is mentioned, we're not there, but it's getting really serious. And I think that Russia and the US will get to some kind of agreement in the end.
Well, let's hope so. The first U.S. presidential debate this week delivered on feistiness. It was on Monday. It seems like such a long time ago. Since then, Donald Trump has gone to war over his microphone, the moderator, Google and Yahoo for alleged bias against him in their search engines. Put aside lofty policy issues, where his rival seems to really have gotten the most under his skin was over this.
Maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So
that makes
if
me
he's
smart.
paid...
All right, that makes me smart, said Trump. But what he also, what really also got under his skin was Hillary Clinton talking about a woman he had called, as she put it, Miss Piggy and Miss Housekeeping, a former beauty pageant winner. And her name is Alicia Machado. Here's what Trump had to tweet about that this Friday. Did crooked Hillary help disgusting check-out sex tape? We haven't seen any evidence of a sex tape. Alicia M. become a U.S. citizen so she could use her in the debate. It's amazing to read the tweets from the man who's vying to be U.S. president.
Bringing Alicia Machado into this was just brilliant. First of all, it's not really a surprise. If you follow Venezuela and you follow the telenovelas and the fan magazines, that sort of thing there, even Mexican Playboy, she's been around for a while and she's been very vocal. She used to criticize Hugo Chavez really violently. And last year, as soon as Trump was named began his campaign, she started saying he was a Nazi rat and talking about the insults that she suffered when she was a 19-year-old beauty queen. And she gained maybe 15 pounds after she won the title. And he said she gained 60, 70. He said she was Miss Piggy. He made her work out He ambushed her with the press at the gym and made her work out in front of a gaggle of reporters and cameras. He did everything he could to humiliate her. He wasn't at all happy with the way she performed. She's gone on to a very successful career in Latin America. And yeah, is she a bombshell? Hell yeah, she is. And she's the first one to say that. She's no saint. But she was insulted and treated this way. And he, Mr. Macho, the man who basically treats women as either as decorations or people to insult, this has really gotten under his skin.
Why hasn't he moved on? That was Monday, and
Because
usually he's very good
nuts.
at this.
That's why. Because Trump is nuts. I mean, I don't think people should really like beat around the bush on this. The guy is complete egotist. He's in his way very insecure. He's very like a lot of insecure men. Who he's worried about his masculinity. He's almost 70 years old, or he is 70 years old. As my wife would say, he probably is having problems.
That's what I was thinking.
And yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So when this bombshell comes out and says, basically, this is Donald Trump, you know, he can't take it.
Yes, but at the same time, it's. I was trying to also understand because Hillary was very prepared for the debate, which was wonderful to see.
And for the presidency, as she said.
Yes, but also the thing is that I was trying to have some empathy and trying to put myself in the shoes of Hillary, of having such a career and being so educated and having held so many positions and that experience, and to find yourself on a Monday evening next to a man who can't even really have a debate. And I was wondering, what is it that says, and maybe Christopher can say that about the Americans, that about the American psyche that makes someone like Trump come so far.
But I think
in the
there's something that you need to understand. I've said many times, I think Trump has a very good chance of winning this election. And I think that the reason is that his sense of modern communication is actually much better than Hillary's. He does this kind of fill-in-the-blank rhetoric, where he lets you draw your own conclusions, and then if you conclude something that for some reason is embarrassing to him, he says, that's not what I said, I'm being misquoted. Or he just lies about it. And he has revolutionized presidential communications in a way that a large part of the American people find acceptable because it comes out of talk radio, comes out of reality TV, it comes out of all those media that feed people that don't actually want to watch the news, that don't actually want to think about analyzing current events. And Hillary always talks down to people. And she sounds
Did she do it Monday night?
Yeah, sure. Not as badly as usual, but Hillary is the queen of condescension. And that hurts her.
Dov Alfon, did you watch the debate?
Yes, I did. I think that I really felt that before Trump, we had Berlusconi and we had Netanyahu. Both men are really alike. And I think that they both won elections. And Netanyahu won by the second election by a huge margin. So there is a real danger that Donald Trump will be President of the United States. This is the feeling I got when I saw the debate, really.
Sure.
He's not presidential, but he might be president.
Well, and also he's becoming banalisé. He's becoming kind of normalized now. It's a friend of mine from California said the other day, it's like you go into a room and there's a really strong smell. After a while, you don't smell it if you stay in the room long enough. Well, we've been in the room with him and the smell's starting to dissipate. It hasn't gone away, but we're getting used to his approach.
Elena Servetas.
But at the same time, because Chris mentioned that everything has changed and the way the communication has changed, at the same time, if in this country, Kim Kardashian can even dream about being a mayor in one city, it's normal for them, after all, to have Trump as a president, you know?
I don't know. This makes me really. I mean, I was looking at the transcript of some of the things that Trump said, and one of the things he said that for me, of course, there was the segment about the taxes, which was very interesting, but there was also the segment about he said my biggest asset is my temperament.
Yeah.
And it's my temperament to win. And it comes back to something that Christopher said. If such empty rhetoric makes you win the seat of becoming the president of a country like the United States, and when we look at the topics we talked about right before this with Syria, with the Middle East, and also maybe peace becoming a dream rather than a reality, I don't know where we're going to be in terms of 5 years' time.
Well, we journalists, we're going to be fine. It's going to be fun. If it was Hillary, it will be so boring. So, in a way, no news is bad news for us.
Well,
so.
Trump will get boring pretty quickly. It's like if covering Kim Kardashian, I would blow my brains out. It's the same story again and again. Aren't I great? Look at my body. Isn't this swell? You know, that'll be the same thing with Trump. He'll just tell us again and again how great he is, and the world will be going to hell in a handbasket. And we will explain it. We will tell people about it, but they'll just change the channel. Did you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
Oh, yeah.
Great movie. A lot of people are watching that now.
All right. Well, we'll see. Of course, there's a vice presidential debate coming up over the weekend, followed by 2 more of those presidential debates. Now, while Clinton and Trump were prepping, or not prepping in some cases, for last Monday's debate, regional leaders were converging on the Colombian resort city of Cartagena for the historic signing of a peace deal with the FARC rebellion, the potential end of a Marxist guerrilla movement that outlasted the Cold War by a quarter of a century.
The greatest challenge of the post-conflict era, which, God willing, will begin on October 3rd, will not be economic or social or political, but rather cultural. It will be in our spirits, in our mind, in our way of life.
President Santos there speaking next to a Botero statue that he'd been offered. Dov Alfon, we started the show talking about how hard it is to make peace when it comes to the Middle East. When it comes to Colombia,
it looks a mission impossible, totally. And for an Israeli to watch this segment of the famous handshake, it's really moving. You can say, okay, if it happens there, then, you know, and it happened in South Africa and Ireland, then you get the impression that it could happen even in the Middle East or other desolated parts of the world. So I think these are really the optimist images of the week, and I felt inside really happy for them, and I hope it will hold.
All right, leading the charge to vote no in next Sunday's referendum, which has to ratify this deal, is the man who was President Santos's boss when he was defense minister, the former president, Alvaro Uribe. He says the deal gives impunity and eligibility to run for office to the highest leaders of the FARC, quote, the largest cocaine trafficking cartel in the world. That's how Uribe puts it, Christopher Dickey.
He's right.
At the heart of this, though, is this...
Well, look, if you cut them out, if you say you can't run for office, you're not going to have immunity, then you're just not going to have peace. I mean, that's what it comes down to. When you make peace, you could even, in South Africa, you could talk about a lot of acts that we would have called and did call terrorism back in the days of apartheid. That all had to be put aside in one way or another. More close to Colombia, El Salvador.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about El Salvador.
I covered that war. I saw that war up close, very close, for a long time. And when peace was made, I could not believe that they would open the doors to the FMLN, the guerrilla group in El Salvador, to participate in the government. At the same time, they were opening the doors to Arena, which was basically the death squad party, to participate in the government. But they did, and El Salvador has a lot of problems, but that political compromise has endured.
And one of those problems is, right after the deal happened, there was this spike in crime. Colombia says it's wary of it. It's going to try to mitigate that. Most notably, there's no disbanding of the armed forces. There's no diminishing of the security forces' role. Is that going to work?
Well, I think that's a wise move. I think that they can't start to disband the security forces. In fact, what they're going to have to try to do is find ways to bring former FARC fighters into the security forces. But the other problem they're going to have is that the FARC is going to fracture. We're going to see little groups starting their own little guerrilla wars because, among other things, they'll want to tap into the narco trafficking. And I think it's going to be a long and difficult road. And, you know, I say, God bless this first effort, but this is just a first effort. This is the beginning, not the end.
Yeah, but it's interesting also to see, speaking of the cocaine deal, it's not only in terms of the world, but I think more than 60% of the cocaine trafficking going to the United States is going from Colombia. When you also look at it's a country of 50 million people with a growing economy, but also it has more than 50 years of civil war and more than 200,000 people who've been dead and 45,000 people who have disappeared. Yes, the time has come, but I agree with Christopher. It's that afterwards is not going to be easy. How are you going to put these guerrillas who, from a very young age, usually they've been kidnapped to join the fighting force, and who've been in the jungle for so many years, and to try to install them in the society? It's not going to be easy, but I think it's the only way that there could have been for 4 years this negotiation table.
And for just one final point on this, for every El Salvador or South Africa, you also have an Angola where you have a peace deal and then afterwards the civil war reignites.
Sure, and that's possible here. Every situation is a little bit different. You know, one of the ironies of this situation is one of Uribe's advisors in the war against FARC was Joaquin Villalobos, who used to be the main guerrilla leader in El Salvador. So you have all these kinds of shifting sands, and people make different kinds of accommodations. Let's just hope it works in Colombia.
All right, proof, if you needed it, that everything seems to be going faster these days. The dizzying rise and now fall of an icon. There were sighs of nostalgia everywhere Tuesday when news out of Canada came of the death of the BlackBerry telephone. The device with a keyboard rose to superstardom, taking the smartphone market by storm, prompting the nickname Crackberry at the height of its craze way back in 2007 and 2008. 2008, Dov Alfon, that's a century ago in tech years.
Apparently, yes. I really think that BlackBerry was so elegant, and I really liked mine. But also, it was a phone for work, you know. It was not a phone for fun at all. And when an iPhone came along, Steve Jobs basically said to us, you can work from here, and also you can look at pictures, you can photograph your mother, etc. And fun has won. Big surprise.
Fun has won? Are you less productive as a result?
Oh, I feel so. I feel that with my BlackBerry as well, much more productive than I am now.
I disagree, because we do need smartphone. We don't need BlackBerry. We have to move on. And BlackBerry is something, I wouldn't say just for fun, it's just for old people. I don't know.
It's interesting. I feel like the world this week is all about post-mortem debates. You know, we started with Peres, we are ending with the death of the BlackBerry. It's a great sign also that things are changing very fast. I mean, when the BlackBerry came in with its tiny keys, and that it was bringing
But you
work
take Dov's
home.
point that we're being pushed to always be distracted, even when we're trying to work on our telephones.
It's all within you, François. If you want to
Well,
find
look,
the inner peace,
the problem
you
with the
can
BlackBerry
find it.
is that there were basic things like web browsing. It didn't do very well. That was the problem with the BlackBerry. And when you want to communicate these days, you have to be able to communicate on the web. But I agree with Dov. I have gotten so much less work done because of my Macs, my iPads, my iPhones, because there's always something to distract you.
Yeah, Instagram is great.
Yeah, exactly. Instagram.
And just one final point on this. I mean, we're talking about an inanimate object. And yet when this news came of the BlackBerry's death, people were sighing like it was a relative that had died.
Well, you know, we have these attachments to these little gadgets. We live with them. I think you mentioned your mother, Francis. I think you were probably spending more time with your BlackBerry than you were with your mother. It is a part of us. That's how we get the news. That's how we as journalists we give the news. So it's kind of like like an uncle who has passed away, but we have a new nephew. Perhaps it's the android, you know?
Well, and also it has all your memories. I opened a drawer I don't open very often, and I saw there's like 8 phones in my drawer. I mean, dead phones. Why don't I throw them out? Because somehow it's not just memories as an object, they literally have memories in them.
Literally have memories that we all say we're going to dig out one day.
And you never do.
Indeed, yes.
Because you're too busy on Instagram and stuff.
Perhaps we could have a gathering one day where we would burn all our BlackBerries and, in a
I thought you were going to say we
central...
would take the pictures out.
No, it would be like
show our
a feast,
pictures.
and again, it comes back to the death and the rebirth thing.
All right, the forward-looking Aishagul Sert there with the final word. I want to thank as well Dov Alfon, Christopher Dickey, and Elena Servatas. Stay with us, though, because our Media Watch segment is next. And we say hello to Diptyka Laurent.
Hi, François.
Diptyka, we've been talking about our attachment to inanimate objects.
Right. From the BlackBerry to Rosetta, also an inanimate object that has provoked a lot of sorrow and sadness on social media today. As we know, she basically committed suicide.
She's a...
I'm giving her a
boat.
gender.
You're giving her
right.
a gender. Okay.
Rosetta, she. I'm guessing that it's a female object. So anyway, she crash landed into the comet today. The ESA, the European Space Agency spacecraft, she'll be reunited with the lander Philae, which was lost 2 years ago. I just want to show you this cartoon to start off with. It's actually from 2014 when Philae crash landed into the comet, but I think it's still pretty relevant given Europe's migration crisis, with the aliens on that comet saying we need to get better border security to avoid all these crash landings on there. There's also a lot of other reactions. These were the last photos. Right to the end, she was still transmitting photos from the comet back to Earth. And this one on the bottom was the very last image that she transmitted.
What,
before
this
grainy image here.
That one here, okay.
That's right. But these were the last sort of 4 or 5 images that she transmitted. They've been shared on Twitter as well. And The Independent sort of talks about why she had to crash land. Basically, she'd gotten too far away from the sun to continue sort of communicating with the space station on Earth. And the decision was made in 249 lines of command to let her crash into the comet. That's what The Independent's reporting. Now, the ESA, the European Space Agency, has been very proactive. They, of course, live-streamed her crash. And they've been tweeting all these different cartoons, which is really nice. Basically, a farewell to her in different languages. Arabic, Hindi, Asian languages, all sorts of languages, which is really nice. NASA also sent a message of congratulations to the ESA and farewelled Rosetta. While Quartz has gone a step further and has written a farewell letter from Rosetta addressed to us, in which she says...
Sort of a deathbed letter.
Exactly, a deathbed letter in which she sort of says she's apprehensive about death, but she understands that it has to be done. And so, just a final tweet. This one's really great. This user really hails the fact that she had to crash land, saying it's like one of those 60s rock bands. You don't want them to make a rubbish comeback tour. We'd rather go out in true rock and roll style.
It's great. Something you said made me think of Trump with Rosetta. You said she has come so close to the sun that she couldn't communicate anymore with Earth. Maybe that could be something that could happen to Trump.
All right, Donald Trump as Icarus there. And you've been, of course, following as well the funeral of Shimon Peres.
That's right. A lot of reactions online. Most notably, we saw this photo shared. This was actually a screen grab from Israeli TV. That's Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian leader. He's hugging Shimon Peres' daughter here, and the French media were reporting that a lot of the French media were reporting that he was actually in tears at the funeral, and that's quite a strong image there. Now, The National, which is an Emirati paper, actually reports that he was, of course, sitting front row alongside a lot of other world leaders, but that was at the request of Shimon Peres, who said that he must sit there in the front row.
Dov Alfon, your reaction?
Yes, I think that Shimon Peres orchestrated his own funeral to the last detail, and he wanted Abbas in front of Netanyahu speaking. It's a last call from the grave, really. This is very, very Shimon Peres.
Mm-hmm. A call for peace. I mean, he was a laureate of the Nobel Peace Prize, so of course it seems fitting that his funeral sort of took place. And there was a lot of images. We, of course, saw Mahmoud Abbas shaking hands with Benjamin Netanyahu as well. And it's interesting because Abbas was the only Arab leader present at the funeral, and he attended it despite Hamas actually urging him yesterday not to go. He sort of didn't heed any calls. He still attended the funeral. It must be said that the rival faction, Fatah, said that by attending, it would disprove Israeli claims that Palestinians only believe in violence. So it was as much sort of a show of, I guess, a political message that he was sending by attending.
Damned if he went and damned if he didn't go?
Well, Hamas was not going to suggest that he should go. And I think Fatah basically said, you know, we want to make peace. Their position has been all along, we want to make peace. And especially if Peres orchestrated this, which I completely believe, I think that Abbas saw this opportunity, and he wasn't going to pass it up, to at least make some symbolic pressure on Netanyahu, because right now things are at a dead standstill or worse.
All right. Diptyque Laurent, many thanks. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in The World This Week.